Are Arcturian starseeds walking among us on Earth? This intriguing question has sparked the curiosity of many. Arcturian starseeds are believed to be advanced beings from the Arcturus star system, known for their high level of consciousness and spiritual awareness. If they are indeed living among us, what would be their purpose, and how could we identify them? Here with us today is James Kelly, the founder of the organization Lone Believers. He is an experiencer, he's a teacher, he's an author, and he's much more. Join us as we explore this fascinating topic today.
Welcome to High Strangeness, where we ask questions and explore all that is strange and unexpected in our reality.
Okay, James Kelly, welcome back to the show. It's great to have you back on. How's it going, my friend? How have you been over the last year?
It's been great. Hey, thanks for having me back. This year has been kind of a whirlwind of activity in my world, and so I'm really excited to get with you and share some of these things that's get you caught up.
Absolutely, I'm very interested. So I just want to let everybody know out there that last year we had a nice long session, and there are 3 episodes that came out of it, and so I will put the links on the show notes of this one, episodes 61, 62, and 63. And the importance about that is we covered a lot of information last year. We went into the origin story of James's experiences and also got into quite a few different and interesting topics about all of this, as well as his first book. So we will do our best to cover a broad range of things today, but please go back and listen to those 3 to just get the full scope of everything that you might have missed up to this point. So today we're going to be picking up once again from last year, picking up to this point. Now, James, you've had multiple experiences and interactions with others. I'm calling them others. I mentioned that earlier. And you know, your experience is unique. You've been provided with knowledge and understanding, I believe, that science and the rest of us really don't have a full grasp of yet. I mention science because science is still focused on trying to admit that this thing's even real. Mm-hmm. So they're really kind of behind the ball on a lot of this. But the rest of us out there who see with our own eyes some things going on, we know something's going on, but everybody's really confused about what it is. And so you as an experiencer and everything you've gone through, I think you're a subject matter expert for us in this place. So I'll have a lot of questions there, and we'll get into a bunch of other stuff as well. Okay. Let's see here. I had mentioned in our pre-show here that you are Milo, and that your Starseed sister is Sari, yes, and your Starseed mother is Lauren. And that's correct, right? I got those names right?
Yeah, that is correct.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
And if I could have you, just for the benefit of everybody, to just review again what a Starseed child is to help bring people up to that point.
Okay. Just briefly, without going into a long explanation, a Starseed child is in 2 different things. They can be a human child or adult that is chosen by others or extraterrestrials to spread their word or their information here on Earth, which basically, you know, from the Arcturians, the Palladians, it's peace and love. We all just need to take a step back and love each other unconditionally and really understand, hey, it's enough. We need to live that way. And another one is Starseeds, which are what's called hybrids, where their DNA is actually altered at birth, and they have 2 different. They have human DNA and what I like to call extraterrestrial DNA or being DNA. And a lot of the times the Starseeds look extremely human, but they're not. They still have the human appearance, but they have been giving and being taught at a higher level on what to do with the Earth, how to help people like yourself and others understand it's coming. And it's just a matter of time that we're going to have extraterrestrials or the beings just show up.
Yeah.
But we are here as messengers or guidance or teachers for everybody to prepare them before that actually happens.
Yes. Yeah, I definitely want to get into those things here in just a short bit. I do want to ask you, well, let me say this. I know that it's plenty of visitations and interactions with Sari and Lauren and others that we've discussed last year. Have you had any or much interaction with them over the last year?
Yes, it's actually picked up quite a bit, where before it was just here and there and a lot of downloads, but now I have actually been being visited almost monthly by, if it wasn't Sari, it was Lauren, or by my teachers, which are Orla, and just having them come. And interesting things have actually happened where I've had star maps of rocks that have been laid on my floor in my bedroom, and different sort of things have just been happening, and just strange things that people would think, well, you're kind of losing your mind, James. You gotta realize that you're kind of losing your mind, but it's really not. And just when I was 6 years old and I was taken by the Arcturians, now I have the chance. I have been called to teach somebody else, and now I have. His name is Jonas, and now he is my responsibility as well. So I've went from being the Padawan in Star Wars to being the teacher, and now the roles are reversed. But since the roles have been reversed, it's a little bit different because he's from Earth, I'm from Earth. So there's that kindred thing that's actually happening. So you're not being taught by another being, you're actually being taught by somebody here. So yeah, a lot of things have actually happened. Can't wait to start talking to you about them.
That's amazing. So let me ask you, as we get into all this, a few questions I have up front. I don't know if it was on your site or somewhere, but I remember seeing somewhere you'd mentioned something about multi-dimensional web trails.
Yes.
And traveling at the speed of thought. Could
Yes.
you describe what you meant by that?
Yeah, you must have been on my Facebook page. I just launched that.
Probably.
Yeah. If you look, and a lot of the astronomers and different scientists are actually confirming this, is that if you get a spider web that has all kinds of different connections and lay it over the universe, there is a connection from every point. It doesn't matter where you are. There could be a connection in my backyard that I could step into that could take me to Mars, or it could take me to Saturn, or it could take me clear across the universe. What these are is they're interdimensional roadways that's actually been there. A lot of people have discussed that, they're black holes, they're wormholes. Well, there's not that many wormholes. There would have to be millions of wormholes in order to travel like this. But these are actually what's called interdimensional trails, where they're in the being. And so what you do is you need to understand where these doors are or portals are. And we don't have the technology as on Earth to be able to do this. But extraterrestrials do, because they can just go and pick a point and travel anywhere. So they could travel from 9,300 light years away and travel clear across the universe, which is 100 billion light years away, within a second. So everything is connected. And that's how a lot of these beings are traveling. They're using this web trail highway to come to Earth, to come to different planets, to come to different dimensions. And that's what we're finding out is happening. And I happened to stumble across this when I asked a question to Lauren. I said, how do you guys affect the doorways? How do you have these portals? How do they work? Because when they're there, they're huge circles of light, but you step through them like you're stepping through a door, like you step from your living room to your kitchen. And I didn't understand that. And that's when she starts telling me, hey, let me talk to you about this. Your scientists are understanding it, but this is how it works. And this is how I got to know kind of how all this happened. I'm just a curious person, so sometimes they answer me, and sometimes they just smile and kind of, you know, you're a parent, you know what it's like. You don't want to answer their question quite yet.
Yeah.
So,
Wow, that's amazing. So, as you're saying that, it reminds me of descriptions of spiritual experiences that people have had in religion as well.
yeah.
Things walking through doors and stuff like that, which maybe we'll get into through our
Yeah.
conversation. But I just thought that was interesting. It's described kind of that way as well. So
It really is. And if you're into religion or you're a religious person and you really think about having, when you pass away, you're stepping from this life to the next. It's instantaneous. Or, people have seen relatives where they just appear. And so this is really kind of mind-blowing because you're traveling at the speed of thought. So you can get in these doorways and think where you're going, and you can go there, and it's almost instantaneous, which is crazy, mind-blowing.
yes, it is. And so I know this question will come up for people. We are talking both physically and consciously, right? This
Yes.
isn't just one.
No, when you step through, you are in the doorway. You are stepping through as a physical being. It's both mental, physical, and spiritual. It's the whole package. You're just there.
Yeah, which is interesting in the fact that science spends so much time only on what they can measure physically, and you've just named several elements that are outside of that. So these scientists will struggle to understand this at all, really. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean they're trying. They've talked about it. They're trying to understand it, and they're getting a pretty good grasp on this whole web trail thing, but they can't quite understand how it works. It's how can you have thousands of web doors on the Earth, but we can't find them, and so that's kind of where they're at right now. They're trying to figure all that out.
Okay, so James, one question along with what we're talking about here. So you have had these individuals use this travel method, right, to interact with you.
Yeah.
Have you had any opportunity to utilize it yourself or be guided through it with these individuals?
I have used the doorway only one time. It's usually the doorways are actually have come to me where I could be sitting in a room or asleep and the doorway will actually open. It's only happened to me one time where I've actually asked to be let into the world or having a doorway appeared, and it's only happened one time. And every other time that I have had or I visited other places, it's always been they have actually come and received me. And so it's a little bit different. I don't know if they just don't trust us with that type of technology or what, but yeah, it's only happened like one time.
Okay, that makes sense. Another different question from the audience's perspective. Many experiencers report medical procedures during abductions. So I don't remember that you had any kind of a procedure, but remind me if that was true. And do you have any thoughts or perspectives on why people go through this?
They are the Greys and reptilians and mantises, so they're really fascinated with humans, and they love our DNA. And so that's what they're after, is especially with the Greys. The Greys have had the abilities to reproduce in the past, but right now they can't. The only thing they can do is keep cloning. And so they're really fascinated, with our DNA. That's why they're actually coming and taking our DNA and experimenting on us to understand our bodies better, to be able to create perfect beings. So that's kind of what's going on with the Greys. Experimentation is going on a lot more with Starseeds now. More abductions. Everybody that I've talked to that are Starseeds are starting to be abducted more and more. Where before it was like once every 5 years or every 2 years. Now it seems like it's 2 to 3 times a year. So
Yeah.
It's becoming different. Excuse me. I don't know if they're ramping up or what they're doing, but they're actually starting to collect more of our DNA or more of our what's called atoms. I can't remember the name of the word. They told me it's something to do with our atoms inside of our body and things like that. But
Okay.
yeah, that's that's kind of what they're doing right now. But yeah, sorry, that wasn't a very good explanation. But
No, that's okay. This is complex. I mean, we're talking genetics here, and probably very few people get it, right? So the question I have with this is, because they're starting to ramp up this abduction work with Starseed, is the normal human DNA insufficient, or are they interested in all variations? What do you think is the reason for the ramp up there?
I've been told that our DNA now, with regular humans, is corrupted, and so they are liking the Starseeds DNA because it's pure DNA. It's actually mixed, so my DNA is mixed with Arcturian, which makes me a better or a a pure person to be able to do. So.
Yeah. Okay. So my question also in this area is the DNA, I mean, DNA is complex, right? But science is getting to the point where they can map it, they can do things like this. Is this,
right?
And maybe you don't know this, but is this something that is detectable by science, do you think? Or is it just something complex enough that we're not there yet as humans?
There has been several cases where they have actually mapped DNA of individuals, and they have found that there's something just to look at it, it is normal. But once you start looking at it deeper, there's just slight variations. Something's not quite right. And so that's when they're starting to notice that what is going on? Why are these people so different? And then they have noticed that their abilities are different. And that's why the government is very interested in some of these people that have these abilities, is because they're wanting to be able to use them and understand them just a little bit better.
Yeah, that's interesting. Also, right now, the big thing, if you're paying attention, and I don't know if you do or not, to the whole UAP, UFO space and all these people that are in this, there's this thing about summoning intelligences. Have you heard about that, where people are using things like psionics, dog whistle methods, different remote viewing, and stuff like that to basically summon UAP? Have you heard about that?
Yeah, it's really a big thing right now, especially what's called CE5. Dr. Greer is really into that right now, but it can be dangerous to be able to do that, because when you are summoning other beings, you do not know who you're summoning. It could be a being of light, or it could be a being of darkness that you just don't want to do. And so a lot of these people are actually really into it because they're really excited about going out west and meditating and seeing all these UAPs in the sky, but they're not considering what they're calling in. I'm not saying that everybody they come encounters with is evil or negative, but you got to be really careful, because you're out there, you're giving them permission to come to you and actually invade your body or invade who you are. So if you're given permission to that's very scary to me. But on the other hand, I can concentrate and speak with my Arcturian family, and they communicate back. So, there's that fine line you can do. It's just a little scary for me to have, these people, 21-year-old people or 22-year-old young college students out there in the desert calling on these lights, and you never know what could happen. It's just crazy. I just would not ever recommend doing that.
Yeah. I'm going to spend a minute here kind of clarifying for people. It seems like there is, or it appears to me that there is a huge variation of entities that can be called in. You have the individuals that are actually from another planet. These are physical beings, but it seems like a lot of these other things can be interdimensional. You mentioned light or dark entities, which correct me if I'm wrong, but it suggests that there may be something on the area of demonic and stuff like that. Do you believe that there's all of these variations in play here on Earth?
Yes, definitely. There's definitely dark vibrational or low vibrational beings here. The reptilians are actually one of them that are very low vibrational. And like I said, when you meditate and you contact them and you agree to let them in, you get what you asked for. You're going to get, just like when you go, my friend goes ghost hunting and he tells everybody when they go investigating with him, hey, this is what you do. You don't torment them. You don't antagonate them. You just let them be. And that's the same thing. You do not want those people in your life. They are already here causing trouble, and you do not want them have more reign over you. And so you just really want to leave them alone.
Yeah, thank you for clarifying that, because I think when you listen to people in the space, there's a lot of confusion there. And they're saying, oh, look, I've seen alien, but they've seen something that's a light or an orb. And I wonder, hey, an orb doesn't sound like, it doesn't sound like a physical being from somewhere else. It sounds like you're dealing with something else here.
Yeah, I mean, orbs can be, to me, an orb, if people say, oh, I saw an orb in the sky, I mean, that can be anywhere from lightning ball to a ghost or a demonic thing. Just to kind of put this in perspective for the viewers, this summer my wife and I were out at our fire pit, and we were just sitting there having a good time, and I could just feel that they were near. And I'm just sitting there, and I look up, and I said, if you're here and you can hear me, could you make a white pulse in the sky? And my wife looked over at me, and we both looked up. In that exact moment, a big bright pulse happened. And she looked at me, and you need to understand, my wife is a good woman, but she's not quite there yet. She's trying, but she's not quite there in believing. I should have clarified that. She kind of has questions still. And we looked at each other, and I'm like, okay, just to make sure that this is you, could you please do it again? And this time do it twice. And it did it twice. And she looked at me and went inside. And so I had to talk to her, and I said, no, it's not a bad thing. They're just they're just letting me know they're there. I mean, it's not a bad thing or a demonic thing. They're just there. And so it was very interesting. Yeah. She's starting to get all these little things, little breadcrumbs, I call them, where she's becoming more and more educated, where before she only believed 10%, and now she's more like 60%. And so she's coming along. It's hard to be married to me. It's
interesting.
It's just one of those things.
Well, your story is extraordinary. And so, yeah, I would suspect that it's almost like, I'm going to use this example. People spend their whole life believing in, let's say, God. But the minute you see him, you're going to drop to the ground and be like, oh, and you're going to be nervous because, it is real. I can see it now with my own eyes. Yeah. I feel like it's the same thing here. Like she's saying, James, I believe you. I love you. I know that you're telling me the truth, but she hasn't experienced it, right? Yeah.
And that's what she says. She goes, I haven't experienced it. I've seen things. She's seen a lot of craft, but to have, an inner reaction with a physical being is a completely different experience.
Yeah.
And I really think she has. She doesn't remember because she got out of the shower one day, and I noticed there was 3 distinct bruises on her arm and her leg. Perfect. So if you put your fingers right on them, they matched exactly. And I turned to her, I'm like, honey, and she goes, I don't want to know. If I was, I don't want to know. And so I think it's there. I
Yeah.
really think that she has been taken, but she doesn't remember, any of it, which is fine. Everybody has their own road to cross. So
Yeah, and maybe she's just not ready to actually look at that face to face at this moment. Yeah.
no, she's not, which is fine. I'm there to support her when she's ready.
Well, James, I've got a couple questions here. I don't know if you want to answer them or not, but I suspect this will be some questions that people would have. And that is, the first one is, do you have a religious background?
Yes, I do. I'm a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, which is a Christian organization. A lot of people know them as the Mormons. And so I have learned to take what I know of who God is, or some people call him the Creator. And I've learned to mingle what I have been taught and what I know, and then what I know from my extraterrestrial family, and mingle them together. And it makes a lot more sense now. A lot of the questions I used to have growing up are answered now, and makes more sense. It makes my testimony or my belief in the Creator or God so much stronger, knowing that he created many worlds out there. It's just not ours, and I have no idea why. I don't want to know why. He just he does what he does, and and that's fine with me. And I'm a very religious person, but having this experience has taken me beyond what I wouldn't have known any of this stuff if it wasn't for the visitations. Not at all.
Well, and you're it sounds like you're still participating and active, but have this other piece that's part of it.
Yes, very much so. And it's funny because one thing I do ask them about their Creator, and they said what you need to do is when you talk to him, you need to show absolute unconditional love for him, and then also be very grateful. Just be grateful for everything you have. And that's what, the Arcturians have taught me, is just love and to be grateful, which is a completely different thing. As humans, we're like, God, I really need a new pair of shoes, and I need this, and I need that. Can you help me out with this? And it's changed the way that I communicate. It is from now, I don't ask for things. I always thank him for everything. And it's really changed my relationship. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. Gratitude, or a prayer of gratitude, goes a long way in grounding somebody and just helping them see, reality in a better way. So it sounds like that's what you're doing. That's amazing. Yeah, I ask because I'm religious, and in my congregation, I've had people that know I'm into this, and they're like, how do you reconcile the two? And I'm like, you're putting God in a box, right? He does not say he doesn't do all these other things. He just tells you what's necessary for salvation. So it's interesting. That's why I thought I'd ask that question. Thank you for answering that.
Oh, you're welcome.
Let's see here. One more kind of spiritual type thing, and then we'll move off of this. And we started to go into a little bit. A lot of people, as I listen to science and people from the religious spaces and everybody trying to really get a handle on some of this, some people are outrightly saying, that's demonic. Other people are saying, these things that were seen in the past were really not just an angel, but they were actually an alien, like the ancient alien theory kind of a thing. So I just want to ask you, as somebody who's actually interacted and has an understanding about your genetic origin, what is your thoughts about just those variety of things that people are thinking out there in this space?
A lot of the times when people are saying, talking about angels, and I gave a lecture, and one lady, very religious lady, talked to me about angels, and she says that, I need to pray because I'm not a good person. And it was very interesting talking with her. She was talking about how angels appeared back and forth, and back in the day, they appeared to prophets and all this stuff, and I just talked to her. I said, well, let's take this in a different level. Angels always appear in a pillar of light, or a cloud of light, or a circle of light. So if you really think about that, let's take that down to a scientific. Are they portals? Are they different energy of lights that they're coming through? Because if I feel that God has to obey the same laws that we do, and so if he's going to send somebody down, he's going to use a dimensional trail to open up a wormhole, not a wormhole, but open up a doorway to be able to go to you. And she goes, oh, really? I'm like, do you pray, right? She goes, yes. I go, then you're telepathic, right? And she looked at me and goes, no, I'm not. I'm like, so do you pray in silent, kneeling by your bed? Do you pray every night? Oh, yes, I definitely pray every night. Okay. And God hears you, right? Yes. Well, you're telepathic. It's because you are speaking with him with your mind. He hears you, and then he's answering you back. And she didn't have a whole lot to say with that. But
right.
If you really step back and look at a lot of these things, it's not trashing on religion. It's bringing the broader understanding of what's going on. If you just pull the curtain aside just a little bit, which a lot of people won't do because they're so caught in religion, it'll open up the world. Really, when I told my wife, I'm like, you're telepathic. No, I'm not. And I said, okay. And we had the same discussion. She goes, oh, that makes perfect sense, James. I didn't really think of that before. And so, a lot of the stuff that's happening, back in the times, you actually see it in back in South America, the Aztecs and the Mayans, spaceship drawings and different sort of things, and also in Egypt. And it's amazing. They call them ancient aliens, and there's a lot of confusion out there where people are saying they're aliens and they're the ones who spawned our race and they're here and they're the ones who built the pyramids and all of this. Well, everything that I've ever been taught, they are not. The Anunnaki are not the fathers of our race. Mm-hmm. And so there's a lot of misinformation out there, but if you really just sit and think and have an open heart and try to understand, I mean, even reading the Bible and the scriptures, if you really read into them, you can understand that, hey, we're different. This is what's happening. That makes perfect sense. Mm.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
No, I appreciate that. And James, that's so true. Like helping either yourself or others just see around the corners of the walls that we mm-hmm. create or interpret from religious dogma allows us to just have a bigger perspective on things. So I really like that a lot. Okay, we're going to move away from some of that, unless you had anything else you want to say about that.
No, I am really good. It's just, I have just a real quick thing. It's hard for people to let go of something that's comfortable and to bring on something new. And so, I don't blame people for being negative or not wanting to understand, because they're in a comfortable place, and we all find our comfortable places. Yeah. And so they just have to be on their own journey. What is that saying? Line upon line. We have to learn a little bit at a time, and they'll get there eventually.
Makes sense. Okay, James, how would someone who suspects that they've been abducted, and their memories maybe are suppressed, like, mm-hmm. Maybe there's some emotional signs, physical signs, what should they look for if they think, I wonder, for me, if something like this has happened? Do you have any suggestions or things that people can look to?
Yeah, I got asked that question just yesterday, and it's better if you look at things, and you don't want to be paranoid and look at, I got a scratch, I must have been abducted. They have to be like physical evidence that you can really understand, and like missing time is a good one. I was outside and I was sitting on my porch and it was 11 o'clock, and then I woke up at 3 a.m. and I don't know how I got in the middle of the lawn. Different things like that, or unusual marks on your body that weren't there. They're not scratches, they're not moles, they're not anything like that. They're actually marks or scars or something that you know wasn't there. And you just kind of have to make a checklist down of things. And then you need to start, how's your mental state? Are you sleeping at night? That's a big a big one. If you've been abducted, it actually goes against your sleep pattern. And so you're only going to be sleeping after the abduction 2 to 3 hours a night. You can't sleep. You're staying up. You're restless. And you can't figure it out. Well, it's because you've been abducted. And that's one of the signs. And so if you just kind of go down and start looking at the different signs, and I'm not saying, I stayed up watching Supergirl until 4 a.m. Well, I've been abducted the next day. No, that's not. It's it's interruption to your normal sleep patterns that you have. And then also, you need to start thinking about, are you hearing things? Is somebody talking to you? And I'm not talking about, dementia or schizophrenia or anything of those things. It's like clear cut, conversations that are happening. Is that happening to you? And so there's a whole bunch of different things that we could go into. It's a list. I'm trying to get in contact with James Gillian. I don't know if you know who he is. He's a good friend of mine. And I want to get a list that we can actually send out to people that we can actually have them start checking off to be able to okay, oh, this makes sense. And then they can be able to understand kind of what's going on in their lives.
Yeah. Yeah, because I suspect some people are just troubled, wondering. But who do they ask, right? It's one of those things which they need to reach out to somebody like you maybe to say, I don't know who to talk to, right?
Yeah, exactly. And there's so many... It is so hard to talk to people because every time that you talk to someone, you're bearing your soul. And when you talk to somebody, there's always this little guy in the back of your head saying they're going to think you're crazy, they're going to think I'm schizophrenic, they're going to think all these things, which a lot of the time people do. I mean, like my family's like, oh, bless you, James. And I know what that means. That's an undertone of just like, yeah, you're nuts. But it's really hard. So that's when I really have spent time traveling and lecturing, and the reason I wrote the book and so forth. I was at a book signing, and I had a lady come up to me, and she was an older lady, and she handed the book to me, and she was shaking. And she goes, Mr. Kelly. I'm like, don't call me Mr. Kelly. My name is James. And she goes, oh, okay, I'm sorry. I'm like, no, don't be sorry. What's going on? I talked to her for a minute. And she goes, could you sign my book? I'm like, yeah, sure. And I signed it, put a little message in it, and I handed it back to her. And she goes, I want to let you know something. I'm like, what? What's going on? And she goes, just so you know, I've been abducted, and it's been hard for me because nobody would believe me. Everybody I told would just say, you're nuts. You're nuts. Just didn't happen. You need some help. To the point where it was really affecting her. And she says, I was extremely depressed. I had lost my job because I couldn't go to work. And she goes, James, I didn't know what to do. And finally, I just decided I was going to kill myself. And I'm like, oh.
Terrible.
You thought that? And she goes, I was so depressed that's what I wanted to do because I had no way out. Nobody would listen to me. And then she saw a podcast with me on talking about things. And then I talked about my book, and she bought my book, read it that night, and it changed her mind. She goes, oh my gosh, I'm not alone. There's somebody out there that understands. There's somebody out there that sees exactly what I'm seeing. And she says, I'm alive because of you. Wow. And I said, no, you're alive because of you. You made that decision. I'm just there to help you. And that's my job. My job is to help others. And going through all that pain I went through, even to still today, I would do it all over again just to save one person.
Yeah.
It's worth it. It's completely worth it. Yeah.
Well, and I remember when we talked last year that you were into your 50s, I think, before you even shared any of this with anybody. Is that what I remember?
Yeah, in fact, it was a year and a half ago, and I'll be turning 60 in June next year. And so,
Yeah.
married for 30 years to my wife. She never knew anything. I kept leaving breadcrumbs for her to kind of figure it out. But until I sat down and talked to her, she had no idea what was going on.
Yeah.
Which was, it's kind of hard to be lonely like that. But I don't know what else you do. It's back when I was going through it, there was nobody to talk to. Luckily, I found a close friend of mine who works for one of the leading paranormal organizations. He really helped me open up and understand, hey, it's okay. It's okay. You can tell people. So, yeah, if you're having trouble, open up to somebody that you trust, even if you have to call somebody. Yeah.
Yeah, that's powerful. You're out there talking with people, right? We hear stories, but you're actually talking and interacting with people. Do you notice an increase in contact and abductions with people out there? Do you feel like those numbers are bubbling up? They're getting more often?
Yes. Oh, definitely. I started out just lecturing in a small library, a couple people. And now it's like I have to limit how many people come, or I have to get a bigger room because everybody now wants to share their story. But I have noticed from traveling that there is more abductions that are actually happening than ever before. And I think the reason for that is going to be good and bad. But I think we're ready. I think we're getting close to the unveiling.
Yeah.
Where they're going to say, hey, we're here. This is what you guys need to do. And yeah, so I have really noticed a lot of increase. And what's funny is some of these really big not YouTube people, but UFO people are starting to come out and say, oh yeah, this happened to me. I was abducted. Or somebody I saw in the woods, and now they're coming out and started saying all these things. Now, you need to kind of take that with a grain of salt, because there is a lot of people out there that are actually taking other people's stories and saying, oh yeah, I was, and they're kind of getting their 15 minutes of fame, which is kind of being it hurts us who have actually had the real experiences to be able to tell people. But yeah, it's getting crazy.
Yeah.
The numbers are increasing, Tony.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. I thought so. Okay, in a minute, I want to get into not only the two books that are out now, we already talked about the first one last year, but I also want to find out about the last year, what's going on with you. But before that, one quick question here, which ties into what we were just talking about. From your understanding, the overarching or arching message and mission behind these abductions is, what should people think? Are they here to help, study, prepare, or something else for us humans?
Okay. We need to kind of separate the word abduction, because the people that are actually being taken, or we call it received, are from higher entities. They are there to teach them, they're to love them, they're say, hey, this is what you need to do. Where the abductions are actually coming from low frequency beings that just want to hurt you. They have no consideration for you. They want to use you as a lab experiment. And so the difference between being received higher and being abducted lower, that's kind of where we make the two distinction onto that. So
yeah, I love that you made that distinction, because yes, people that talk about the interactions with the Greys, they don't usually sound like they had a good time. And that's because they're a lab subject, basically, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right. And there is benevolent Greys. There really is. But the ones that I've come in contact with, they're not. They are the most evil beings that I've ever seen. And I just did a lecture on my waking nightmare that I can't awake from, which talks about the Greys and how they used to get into my mind and they would put thoughts into there and visions in there where I couldn't get rid of them. Yeah, so they're
Crazy.
They're not good people.
Yeah, yeah. One more before we get into some of this.
That's all right.
The Greys. Do you think, I just had this come into my mind, a lot of people think they are emotionless, they are cold, they are maybe not even a being, but more of a android or something like that. Because you've interacted with that element, do you have an opinion on what that might be?
Yeah, the small grays is what we call them, are actually biological engineered. They're clones. And they're drones. They're like little drone bees. They're there to come and get you, to do the work, to get you ready. But all of the experimentation is done by the real grays. They're taller. They can be anywhere from 5 feet to 6 feet. They're thin. They're very, very intelligent. So yeah, the smaller grays are just the drones.
Okay.
So anytime you hear somebody being abducted, it's always the smaller grays. And then they're like, yeah, while I was on the ship, I had these taller grays come in. Well, they're the ones that are really running the show. Yeah.
Okay.
And so that's kind of where, people need to
that makes
understand the
sense.
small grays or not. Yeah.
So if I see a small gray, I'm running.
If you see any gray, you need to run. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. James, this has been great. So let's get into the last year. So
Okay.
let's talk about that, because we haven't talked for a year, and I know things are going on. So please share what you're willing to about the last year.
Wow. I don't know where to start. But we'll start with what's kind of happened with my computer and things like that. So, just, over the last 5 months, because I do a lot of stuff on my computer. I write books, I do podcast, I do all kinds of things. But I've noticed that I'd be on my computer and my cursor would move by itself. And I'm like, oh, maybe my mouse is faulty. So I got a new mouse and it would go away. And then I would do it again. And then I started noticing that the mouse would actually click. And then up in the search bar, it would type in a file, search for file, such and such. And then things would open and close, move this, things delete. And it was crazy. Windows were opening and closing and being like this. And I'm like, oh, crap. Maybe I got somebody who's trying to steal my information.
Right.
And so I shut it off and I just let it go. A couple weeks later, it happens again. But this time they were actually deleting these files, these newer files that I had on my computer. And it kept happening, and it happened several times to the point I'm like, Holly, you need to watch this. She's like, James, you're overreacting. It could be, somebody that's actually, in your computer trying to steal information. Well, they were stealing information, but then one night it started freaking out. It was closing and opening and asking for files and deleting files and doing all kinds of things. And I'm like, Holly, come here, look at my computer. And she looked at it, she goes, oh my heck. What is going on? I'm like, I got to shut this down right now. Well, they had stolen all of my information, all of the files I've had on people, not bad files, but, files I've had on people that's talked to me, a government documentation that I've actually got through the Freedom of Information Act, all of my book. Luckily, I saved it on a stick drive. My book was actually gone. And a lot of things were happening where I had to actually get a new laptop. And so, before I got my new laptop, I actually erased the hard drive, did everything, changed the IP address of my computer. Because I thought, well, maybe if this is somebody else, then they can't get the IP address. Well, then it just happened again. And so, I just closed that computer. I got a new drive, erased everything, changed the IP again, and gave it to my kids. Say, hey, here you go.
Yeah.
So I have a new computer, so it's hard because now I need to load everything again and put all the stuff that I had on there before, and it's kind of hard to be able to do. And at this time, when everything was going on with my computer, my phone was doing it as well, where I'd look down at my phone and it would be popping through screens. It would be deleting out people I had in my contacts. Whoa. It would be calling people in my contacts. All kinds of things were happening. And finally, I had to get a new phone, change my phone number, and and do some things to be able to get away with this. And what's crazy is you can't hide.
Yeah.
There's no way to hide, because then I started getting the phone calls. And I think I talked to you a little bit last time about the phone calls I was getting, but now they were becoming worse, where I was actually being threatened on the phone now if I didn't stop talking or going around with groups, that they were going to harm me, that they would threaten me and threaten my son. We know where he lives. We know what high school he is. And they were telling me exactly what time he got out, what time I picked him up, exactly where my wife worked, everything. And so it came to the point, and I'm not the only one, I guess, that's going through this. I talked to several people, and they're having the same experience. But like I was telling my wife, I'm not backing down, because what I'm sharing with people is true, and they need to hear it, and they need to be educated on what's going on. And I have to be their beacon, because if I'm not there, then what's going to happen? And so all of this technology stuff is going on, which is kind of crazy. And one of my friends, he went to drive his car, and he couldn't stop his car. Somebody had actually cut his brake lines of his car. And
Wow.
he's in the same type of field I was in, where he was helping and talking about people, and he had pictures of UAPs and all kinds of things that was going on. So, it's getting kind of crazy in the
That's
world,
frightening.
but that's why I love being on your podcast, because they only can censor so many people
Yeah.
to be able to get out there. But yeah, that's kind of what's going on in my computer world and my phone world. But to kind of step away from the scary stuff and get into that, I had a really interesting experience several months ago, and I just went to bed, like usual. Didn't think much about it, and I woke up, and by the side of my bed, there was these little stones, and I looked down, and it looked like it was in a set pattern. I'm like, I've seen that pattern before. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I know that pattern. Where have I known that pattern before? So I drew it down, and I started looking on the internet, and come to find out that was the constellation door that actually the Arcturian star is in. And it was really weird. I have a picture. I wish I could bring it up on here, but I took a picture of it, and I showed Holly. I said, look at this. This is kind of crazy.
Yeah.
She goes, yeah, this is really crazy. What do you think happened? I'm like, somebody was here last night, and they left me this. I don't know what for. And then, weeks passed. Never had another problem. And then, again, in our living room was the same thing that happened again. And I'm like, okay, what's going on? So I started, meditating, and, hey, what's going on? Did you need me for something? Is this you? I really need your help in answering this question, if this is you. And then that night is when my life changed, really, for the better. Is when Lauren actually came through a portal, came and got me. She says, I need you to come with me. And I'm like, okay. I don't even hesitate anymore, Tony. If I can leave this earth, I'm good to go. And so she took me, and we just walked, and we walked into the great halls. That's usually where the door is. And we walked into this great hall, which is it's massive, and has these huge 30-foot windows, and it's like huge bay windows, and it's just beautiful, and it looks out over the city. And she goes, I have somebody that wants to meet you. I'm like, okay. Like, trying to think, okay, who do I know? I only know so many people. And she took me up to this door, and the door was stained glass, but it was almost like it was liquid, like looking through a rainbow. And so when we came up to it, the door just opened, it just vanished. And I walked in, and I saw this little tiny kid. He couldn't have been more than 5-6 years old. And he was sitting in an upright chair, and she pointed over to him and said, go talk to him. I'm like, what do you want me to? She's like, you have come full circle. Before you were the student, but now you're the teacher. he is your responsibility to teach him. And I started freaking out a little bit. I'm like, I can't do this. She goes, you're ready. So I walked over to him and knelt down in front of the chair on one knee, took his hand, and he was scared. He was shaking, which it just took me back to being 6 years old and everything that happened when I was received by them. And I think that made just a little bit more sense to me how I was going to approach this. And I took him by the hand and started, it's going to be okay. And he just I go, let's go for a walk. And he got out of the chair, and I took his hand, and we walked out into the great hall, and I sat in the chair next to him, and I just talked about, the lights in the city. And I asked him his name and everything, trying to get feel a little bit more comfortable of how he was. And then he just looked at me and looked at me. He says, I'm scared. I go, I'm scared too. But we're going to do this together. And he says, what's your name? I says, my name is Melio. What is your name? He said, my name is Mike, but they kept calling me Jonas. I go, okay, let me explain that to you. You're a Starseed child. And I explained all that to him, and this is your name that you're going to be called by. He goes, I don't want to be one. I want to go home. I'm scared. And I said, hey, guess what? I'm from Earth too. And at 6 years old, I was taken. And just then he realized, and he jumped in my lap. His head was buried in my chest, and he just started crying. And I just held him, and I just kept him there. And we sat there for quite a while. And a lot of other things happened where, once he was calmed down, we went for a walk out in the gardens, and I started teaching him different sort of things on how plants are related, how you can sense their energy and communicate with the plants, and how he could touch them and make them come to life and respond in different ways, how I was taught. And then after a couple of hours of doing that, it was time for him to go back. And Lauren just took him by the hand, and he looked back at me, and I just smiled, and he was gone, and I haven't seen him since. But it was a great experience that I had, knowing that all of that stuff happened to prepare me for what I was about to do. And it's crazy because Tony, I don't know if I'm ready. I guess I am. They told me I am, but some of these beings are 10,000 years old, and to me, I'm just a child.
Wow.
So it was a great experience that I actually had with that, and it empowers me now. It fuels me to be able to do things.
Yeah. Let me ask a few questions. Mine was going pretty fast here. Let me track back just a little bit. When Lauren came to get you, do you believe that was physical or conscious that you followed her back? Do you know?
It was it was absolutely physical, because when I took her hand, I could feel her hand.
Okay.
And I could feel her robe brush against my wrist.
Okay.
And so it was very, very physical.
Yeah. And then the other question I had is, you talked about meditating to try to reach out. Do you have, we were talking earlier about all these other ways people are trying to summon and connect with things, but you're doing, you're reaching out and have an interaction and a relationship with a physical being, other physical beings. Do you have a technique or a process for how you reach out? Or is it just, you yearn, they know? Or, do you have a process for that?
Well, sometimes I contact them just by yearning,
Okay.
But most of the time, I meditate daily in the morning, and I always put on music that it's around 432 megahertz, which is a good cycle for your body. It actually helps stimulate cells to reproduce, and it opens your mind. And I will just sit there and breathe, in and out, and breathe in and out until I can get into this very relaxed, conscious state. And then while I'm breathing, I will contact them. I will say, are you there? This is Milo. I'm here to contact you. I have some questions, and this is my question. And then I become very quiet and I listen. Like I said before, it's kind of like prayer.
Yeah.
And I listen. And then sometimes they answer. Sometimes I have to wait. Sometimes it's days before they answer me. But usually, I usually get a download. So usually I meditate in the morning. I relax, listen to music, getting into a very peaceful, relaxing state. Open your mind and allow them. Say, I am allowed. Now, this is kind of contrary. You don't want to allow negative entity, but if you are asking for positive influences, you can say, I want a positive influence to answer me, and the negative influences are not welcome. And you can do that, and they can't interfere with your mind. Only the positive influences can.
Interesting.
And so that's kind of how I do it. And anybody can do this. It's just not me. Anybody can do this. They just have to keep doing it and understanding it and keep working at it. And you never know. Maybe sometime you'll be surprised.
You're right. Yeah. Do you, so there's been a lot of interaction over this last year. Would you say that the connection with them has been mostly initiated by you, or did they have, they're like, okay, now it's time, and they're the ones initiating that, or is it a combination of that?
It's always been a combination, especially now. It's more of a combination, give and take type of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I do know that something really tragic happened in my life, and I didn't know how to deal with it, and it hurt. And I'd spend a lot of time outside sad, really sad, where my heart was aching. And I didn't know what to do. And, I don't cry very often, but this was one of those things that penetrated my heart to the point that I was sobbing. I was really sobbing, and I'm just like, I can't deal with this right now. And that's when I heard, you are loved, you are heard. And they started talking with me in a very peaceful, almost like the way your mother would talk to you after you skinned your knee. In type of a way. So yeah, it's starting to act back and forth, but it seems like I'm more in contact with them if I want to.
Okay. Now, I'm not insensitive, but I'm not going to ask you about your experience, so I'm going to move past it. But I don't want to just brush by and not acknowledge that you went through something difficult. Sorry that happened. So, yeah. You mentioned this young boy. Is he? So you understand now that you've gone full circle, and it's going to be time for you to help mentor, right? Is this young boy a young boy right now, or has time been weird in that situation? Do you need to wait till that child gets older, or what have you been told about that?
So far I've been told that they will contact me when they want me to communicate with him again.
Okay.
They called me, I'm a Nabaru, which is like a teacher or a professor. And so when they're ready, they will let me know. And it was funny because from the time, I was 6, I didn't know a whole lot, just what they had told me, a few things. But then there was years later, then all of a sudden I was contacted again. And so I hope it's not a long time, because he was such a great kid. When I was teaching him telepathy, this is kind of on a little tangent, but when I was teaching him how to speak without talk without speaking, and you use pictures. A lot of people think telepathy is words. It's not. It's pictures. And so I asked him, I go, show me what it's like to be happy. And he showed me a chocolate bar. And I said, you like Hershey candy bars? And he's like, whoa. And I'm like, yeah, I saw that. That's how I know. I go, show me your room. And I had a picture in my mind of this bed with race cars on his bed, like a blanket. But then also his nightstand and his, shades and stuff for cars. I was like, you like race cars? He's like, So, being 6 years old, he really didn't understand, but he was getting kind of a taste of kind of what's going on. So I got to know him just a little bit better.
Yeah.
And I hope sometime soon we can get together and go over some more things, but it's not up to me.
Yeah.
It's completely up to them.
Interesting. Do you think the timeline is the current timeline? Like, I don't know how this works. Like, in my mind, I'm thinking, or did you meet this young man, but maybe he comes back here and maybe he's 12 or maybe he's 20. Is that how it works? I mean, do you know, or is it he's probably a child still right now?
He's probably still a child, because when they came and got me, I was 6 years old. Then when I started being trained by Sari, I was 12 going on 13. And so, we're still subject to who we are.
Yeah.
They just had the introduction. I think that's basically what it was.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. As I'm thinking about that, I'm saying to myself, it would drive me crazy. I'd be like, I know I can't search this kid out, but I almost want to. You know what I mean?
I've sat and thought about that. I'm like, I'd really like to contact, but it's not mine to ask.
Right.
And so, I'd really like to meet him again. I have so much to talk to him about, but it's not time.
Yeah. There's a process, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else you want to share about the last year? That's amazing. That's amazing.
It's kind of a crazy world we live in, because just about 3 weeks ago, we have a fire pit. Our family likes to spend a lot of time out there and just look at the stars or roast marshmallows, tinfoil dinners, and just have a good time with each other and talk. And after, our family was out there, they went inside and Holly went inside and I just stayed out there. And I'm like, I would really like to talk to you. And I just started meditating. And I don't know if when you close your eyes and you see the shift of light, you can still kind of see light going on, even though your eyes are shut.
Mm-hmm.
And I opened my eyes, and I noticed that the fire, instead of going like this straight, it was going like this sideways. All the flames were shooting off on an angle. I'm like, that can't be good. And I'm like, are you here? I would like to talk to you. And there was really nothing that happened. I didn't feel a good feeling. I didn't feel anything like that. And I just kept watching the flames and watching the flames. Then I looked up and I saw a pinpoint of light off in there. And it came from the south. And it was directly over me. But I couldn't see a craft. All I saw was a light. It was like a spotlight. And I didn't remember anything after that. Once the spotlight, it was there. I didn't remember anything. Then I woke up and I was lying out on the lawn, and it was like 4 a.m. And I got up and I'm like, never mind. I know exactly what happened. So I came upstairs, got ready for bed, didn't think a whole lot about it. And the next day I went out, and this is when I, getting ready to, tomatoes are coming on, all kinds of stuff is coming on. And around our fire pit, we have these 5-gallon pots, and they have different plants in them. Well, around the fire pit, in a complete circle, the grass was dead, and half of the plants in the pot were dead, all the way around, and then 4 birds were dead by the fire pit patio. And I'm like, what's going on,
Yeah.
This definitely has to be a craft that happened out there. And so I asked one of my friends to come over and look at it, and they're like, you got to report this. And I'm like, I'd much rather not do that right now with everything going on. And he said, take pictures. So I took pictures of everything, and I was going to send them to my friend Fred so he could, put them in his files with this organization. And that's one of the nights where everything on my phone was taken off. All the pictures, all the contacts, everything was taken off.
Wow.
And so, it's kind of crazy, kind of what happens. But I don't remember anything, Tony, about what happened. I know I was taken. I know they weren't benevolent beings, but I don't remember anything.
Yeah.
And my wife says, "Don't you want it?" I'm like, "No, you want to know something? I really don't." I remember a lot, and I really, if they don't want me to remember, that's kind of fine with me.
Yeah.
And everything that's happened. And another thing that just happened like a week ago, Holly and we go out to dinner on Fridays, like date nights. When you get older, your kids start getting older and stuff, you go on more date nights.
Yes.
And my wife says it's just an excuse for me to go out to dinner, but yeah, I'll give it a 50-50 on that one.
That's what my wife says too.
And so we, in Utah, there's a town, it's Orem, and there's a huge mall in Orem, and it has a lot of restaurants, and where you can actually go to the restaurant, and there's an entrance from the outside of the mall. So we decided, hey, we'll go to this restaurant and we'll eat. But there was like an hour and a half wait, and we're like, well, we'll just walk around the mall, and we'll look at stores and do whatever. And we were just walking, and it probably like 20 minutes or so, and we kept walking, and I noticed this beautiful, and the word beautiful doesn't even begin to describe this woman. She was beautiful, very thin and tall. She had blonde hair, and when I say blonde hair, it wasn't white blonde hair. It was golden, like gold, the color of gold. And I thought, that's really weird. And the closer that she got, I noticed she had these piercing blue eyes. And I'm like, okay. And she had on this really bright blue. I can't even describe the blue, except for it was like just a very blue shirt, tight shirt, and pants on. And as she just walked to me, I'm holding my wife's hand, and we're going down there. And the closer she got, I just kept looking at her. And as I looked at her, and as she walked right by me, I heard in my mind, "You saw nothing." I'm like,
ooh.
And I let go of my wife's hand, and she goes, "What?" I'm like, nothing. And I just kept walking and walking, and then I you got to turn around. And as soon as I turned around and started looking at her, she kept walking. And I heard, "You do not need to know any of this. If you look around, nobody notices me but you." And I'm like,
wow.
Oh, okay. So it was a very weird experience, but then I started talking to some of my friends who are high up in the UFO, and I guess that this is happening quite often now, where they're called the Nordics, are actually down among us and interacting with us now. But the only people that can really see what's going on is the people that are in tune and really notice. So, there's just been kind of crazy, nothing really out of the world, I guess it is out of the world for you guys, but out of the norm. But that was one thing that really unnerved me, because I wasn't ready for it. And just to me, she just looked like this really gorgeous 20-year-old woman. Mm-hmm. But, she wasn't. So it was kind of a crazy little experience that we're having. Yeah, it was really strange.
Especially the verbiage right into your mind. Yeah.
Right, yeah. And so it's like, okay. And, I understand what they're doing. They're here to look at us and observe us and see what's going on, because they are not allowed to interfere. No matter how bad we get, they are not allowed to interfere. That's my job. That's why they have us. So, yeah.
Okay, so this is their process, is to not... Okay, I'm just curious what makes that rule, but you're saying this is the way things are.
There's the Gal... Okay, let me back up a little bit. There's a council that rules a bunch of different planets. And I know it kind of sounds kind of cheesy, kind of like a Star Trek thing, but it's really like the Star Trek thing, where there's two different...
They've said that, I've heard this from a few people, that there is an intergalactic federation. Is this what this is? Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And the planets they're here to help us, but the rule is they are not allowed to interfere.
Okay.
And when I talk and I give lectures, I hate to talk about it because then people like, oh, you're just copying Star Trek and you're doing all these things. And I'm like, well, maybe he is one of them. You know, Roddenberry could be one of them. You just, you don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there's been some high ups, Canadian government, Israeli government talked about this very thing, like as high as you can get in their military. And so it's something that's out there. That's crazy. Oh, okay, let me ask you this. So we've got these beings interacting here. There's this federation, but you mentioned a little earlier on that eventually they're coming and stuff like that. You made reference to that. Now there's some things going on right now in the UAP space where they're talking about some rock or something that's heading in this direction. They think it'll be here in 2027, and they don't know what it is, but it's moving with some intelligence, they think. Is this something like what we're talking about, or are we not talking about something like that? Is this something else?
Yeah, I've looked into that extensively, and I believe, and this is just James's personal opinion, I think we're reading too much into it, especially in the climate that we're in.
Yeah.
I think that this whole thing is probably just a piece of rock that's moving, and when it goes by a star or it moves by a planet, it shifts because of the gravitational pull of it. And so I think we're kind of reading too much into it. And I know the UFO community is like, no, it's a mothership, it's coming, it's our answer that we're doing. And I'm just like, I haven't been told anything about it, so it's like, I don't know. And they, of course, they don't tell me everything, but I really think that we're kind of overreacting to. There's so many things out there that we want to be real that are just not. Like you said before, when you see orbs on cameras, well, it could be a lightning bug, it could be a lot of things, but we want it to be a ghost, or we want it to be an extraterrestrial because that's what we want. So I don't really give a whole lot of credit to what's going on with that, but I do know, and I have been told, in the next several years there will be contact. They didn't tell me what type of contact. They just said there will be contact.
Do you have a feel for? Are we talking the next decade, or or sooner than that? Do you have any feel, or is that really vague at this point still?
It's not really vague. When I was talking, it seemed to me that they were talking like the next several years.
Wow. That
this is going to happen. And so, which makes sense, because people were talking about 2028 and all of this stuff happening 2027, and it's like that would make sense.
Yeah.
I look forward to it because I'm going to get vindicated, and I don't have to be called crazy anymore, Tony, and which is going to be good. But but everybody just needs to hang on, and just when it happens, and not to read too much into it.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to whatever's coming. I mean, it's an exciting time, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, we get people, the people I lecture with, we get people all the time asking us, well, how does the second coming of Christ, how is that all going to work in with all of this? I'm like, I don't know. It's a good question. Maybe you need to ask him. And so it's just, but people sometimes ask me, it's like, I know all the answers to the questions. I'm like, I don't know, what all that is. The only thing I know is it's going to happen. And I really feel that this world, a lot of people said, oh, it's going to get worse, and it's going to be on the brink of destruction, and then Christ is going to come. And I feel the opposite. I feel like the world is going to get better. The extraterrestrial beings are going to come and help us love each other and put us on the right path. And then once the world is ready, peaceful and ready, then Christ will come, because then he will come to a world that's already ready.
Yeah.
And that's just my 2 bits. A lot of people are going to yell at me in the comments, I know, but
it's as good as as good a theory as any, really, because the theories are all over the place, right?
Yeah, and that's just mine.
I'm sorry, what were you saying?
No, I said that's just my theory, and you can take it or leave it, and just kind of how it is.
Sure. Okay, James, You're Not Alone is a book that has come out since we've talked last, and
Yes.
Awakened by the Stars, is that correct?
Yes. So You're Not Alone is a journey. I explained my journey, how I survived from the time I was 6 until now, how I dealt with all of these things, spiritually, mentally, and physically. And it goes through and explains all of this. And it takes my first book, and which was just the experiences, and gives you a little bit more insight. It's like the missing pages in between each other helps you understand what was going into my mind, what was going on with me that way. And it helps you open other avenues to UFOs and makes things make more sense. And then this news book I'm writing, it's not done. It won't be done for quite a while. But it's Awakening by the Stars, which chronologies my journey of being awakened and what I'm being taught and how I can express things, and talks about portals and how I'm a hybrid, and it talks about all kinds of different things that happens, and it kind of brings all three books together. And,
Nice.
yeah.
Yeah, it's like seeing different aspects of this from different angles. I think that's
Yeah.
really cool because people that are quietly going through stuff can glean some stuff from your experiences. And like that one woman that you mentioned where she felt like I'm not alone, right? That's
Yeah.
pretty good. Yeah. Are you getting ready to do a podcast? Did I see something like that?
Yeah, people are driving me crazy. Well, they don't drive me. I love them, but they want me to do a podcast, and I'm like, I am just so busy that they really want me to start doing a podcast. And then I thought, well, I could do guest speakers or do whatever, but then I'm like, okay, I'll do it, but it's just going to be me, and I'm just going to be
Yeah.
talking about things.
Gotcha.
And it'll just be, insights and different things, answer different questions that people have sent me, instead of having, different guests on. I think I might every once in a while have somebody on, but
Yeah.
it's hard to get guests on
Sure.
that are credible,
Right.
because
Right.
there's a lot of people out there, and so yeah.
So when do you think this will kick off? Is this in the development stages for you, or?
Yeah, it's in the developing stages. It's out of my wheelhouse. I really don't do a lot of what you do, Tony. I talk a lot on it, but I don't do the questions and answers. And,
Sure. Sure.
But it's coming. It's slowly, and I'm purposely doing it slowly. But yeah, it's coming. You probably should see stuff happening like after the new year.
Okay. Very cool. Well, I'm cheering for you, man. Good work. That's awesome.
Well, thanks.
Lone Believers, I don't know if that's what the organization, the movement, or, because you're helping people, right, and stuff like that.
Mhm.
What's going on there? Like, because I know you're talking and you're doing some lectures and stuff, but what's stuff going on there that people can tie in, follow you, visit when you're doing, talking somewhere, or are you what do you have going on there for people?
With the Lone Believers organization, we are just basically helping people who have had experiences, no matter what experiences that they had, a safe place to be able to come in and talk, and to be able to share their feelings without being judged. And sometimes we have a group like on Zoom where we get on, and I'm the head of it, and we start talking, and people share, oh, that happened to me too. How did you get over that? And then they just back and forth start talking, and you can just tell how the weight is being lifted off their shoulders just by experiences and sharing with others. And so that's what a lot of our group entails. And I used to have an investigation, but I've actually stopped doing that because my website kept being taken down. It was taken down 5 times.
Oh.
And each time I would call, because it was through Wix, and each time I would call Wix and I'd say, hey, why is this down? They said, well, told us to take it down. I'm like, wait a minute, I'm the administrator, and I never told you. They said, yep, somebody called, said they were James Kelly, gave us the right passwords and codes, and shut it down. I'm like, don't do that anymore. It's being hacked.
Wow.
So after the 5th time, I just shut it down, and we don't do that anymore. And so I just do this, just the Facebook, which I feel is a little bit more secure.
Yeah.
And we can do, I can put up, where I'm going to be and different sort of things that way. And I'm going to be at the library in Gunnison, Utah on Saturday if you want to come down, and we'll meet and talk and things like that. So it's very informal about what's going on,
Sure.
but it's also very amazing in how many people are showing up.
Yeah.
And what is really strange is people put me on a pedestal, and I don't want to be on a pedestal. This happened to me. I didn't ask for this. And so I keep telling them, you guys need to really understand, I didn't ask for this. I was put in this situation, but I'm here to help you.
Yeah.
And, I kind of understand, because I'll look at, other people in the UFO community, and I'll be like, oh. So if you ever watched, Skinwalker Ranch,
Oh, right.
yeah, you meet those people, and you're kind of like, oh, and, it's kind of that type of thing. But,
Yeah.
I'm James. I'm very down to earth. You kind of get what you see and type of thing like that. But the organization is out there. So anybody who really wants to talk, I'm always willing to talk. They can get in contact with me through my website. My phone number is actually on my book website, and they can contact me through that. Or if they prefer, they can actually contact me through the email that's on the website as well.
Perfect. That's exciting, man. That's great. Sounds like you have a lot going on. It sounds like you're helping people, and more people are coming out sharing things that they probably couldn't or felt like they couldn't share with other people. So that's really good.
Yeah, a lot more people are coming out, and it's different. It's a lot more females.
Really?
Women are actually coming out than the males. So I don't know if the males are kind of like, I'm tough. I don't. But
Maybe.
it's a lot more females that are actually coming out with these abduction stories, or these stories of miscarriages and things like that. So it's very interesting how the tide is right now.
Right. Yeah. James, this has been great. I really enjoyed our talk today. I'm done with the questions that I have. Is there anything else you wanted to cover before we wrap up for today?
Yeah, the only thing that I like to always end with is, please be kind to each other, love each other. We're all here to support each other. It doesn't really matter who we are or what we say or what we do. We're all humans that are on this planet Earth, and we need to start showing more unconditional love to each other. And if you can learn how to do unconditional love, then your life becomes better. And you never know. If you get to that stage where your unconditional love is there all the time, maybe something will happen. You never know.
Right.
Maybe
Very
Tony
true.
will be lifted off. You never know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Hey, thanks, James. This has been great. And for everybody out there, thank you. Thanks for listening. And once again, James has been great to share what's going on, what he's been through. And once again, if you feel like you've experienced something, or you think, hey, I don't know, but something might have happened here, you now have an organization to reach out to and a guy to talk to who's really, going to listen to you and going to really walk you and help you through some of this. So this is great. If you enjoy all the variety of topics we look at on this show, do us a favor and subscribe and hit the like button. It actually does a lot to help our episodes with those interesting YouTube algorithms. Oh, and don't forget, there's a lot of strange and unexpected in our reality. So always keep your eyes, ears, and minds open. And until next time, stay safe.
Thank you for listening to High Strangeness. This was a glance at some of the strange that exists in our reality.